Alright, here we go. We're going to factor down this trinomial. So, looking at this trinomial, do you remember what we need to do first? Our first rule of factoring is always to pull out the GCF. You have to ask yourself that every single time. If you forget it one time, guess what? That will be the time that there'll be a GCF and you'll throw the whole problem off. In this case, there is a GCF because 3 will go into each one of these terms. So let's pull our 3 out first, do that reverse distribution. 3 times x squared gives us 3x squared. 3 times a positive 3x would give us a positive 9x. And 3 times negative 10 would give us a negative 30. Now, just for the time being, we're going to kind of ignore that 3 on the outside. And we're going to see if that trinomial will break down a little bit further. There are 3 terms, so let's try trial and error. So let's see. Well, x times x would give us x squared. This sign tells us that these are different because it's negative. So because they're different, one of them will be a positive and the other one will be a negative. Now let's think about our factors of 10. 10 would be 1 times 10 or 2 times 5. I guess that's it. Now which one of those combinations is more likely to give us a 3? Looks like it has to be the 2 and the 5. But now you have to ask yourself, how can you get a positive 3 out of a 2 and a 5? The only way that can happen is if the 5 is positive and the 2 is negative, because then we would have positive 5x minus 2x is a positive 3x. Now don't forget about that 3. We just ignored it for the minute, but then in our final answer we have to make sure and bring it back down again. Alright, this next one we have a to the 4th minus 2a squared minus 15. And this one might throw you off a bit because it's to the 4th power. But the idea is exactly the same. We have a GCF here, yes or no? No. No GCF. We have 3 terms. So that tells us that we're going to factor by trial and error. So let's put our parentheses down. Now, what times what would give you a to the 4th? Well, in this case, it would be a squared times a squared, which is very advantageous because our middle term needs to have an a squared in it. So because of that, this will factor beautifully. Now, our signs. What does this tell us about our signs? Will they be the same or will they be different? This tells us that our signs will be different. So one will be positive, the other one will be negative. Now, 15. Let's think about this. Our factors of 15 be 1 times 15 or 3 times 5. Which one of these combinations is more likely to give us a 2? The 3 and the 5? But now how will 3 and 5 give us a negative 2? That only happens if the 5 is negative and the 3 is positive. So that tells us that the positive is 3, the negative is 5, because positive 3a squared minus 5a squared is a negative 2a squared.